Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the Everything Policy program. I was going to start with a quick question for you all. Are we baseball fans? It's the fall, we're in playoff time. You like baseball?
Yes, we do.
There you go. I love baseball, and a quote came to mind about this panel: "If you build it, they will come." Wise words that Ray Kinsella heard in a field of corn as he's a failing farmer, but I think it relates to what we're going to talk about today. The wireless industry has invested about $30 billion annually over the last decade, pushing forward on innovation, new use cases, fostering competition. And this panel, with these experts, who I'll introduce in a second, will talk about some of those things, what we've been able to do with 5G networks thus far, and what it looks like going forward. So without further ado, why don't we turn to our experts? So I have, to my left here, Svetlana, Director of Public Policy at EchoStar; John Kuzin, Senior Vice President of Spectrum Policy and Regulatory Counsel at Qualcomm; and Becky Tangren, Vice President of Regulatory Affairs at Nokia. So thank you all for being here today. We're at Mobile World Congress. One of the key issues here is AI. I know everyone's talking about it, so I'm going to start there. It's also alphabetically first, so it made it easier for me to think about. Becky, how has AI changed the way that you all are thinking about wireless technology, and in particular, how it's designed, how it's manufactured?
Sure. Well, I will say that we are building it, so we hope everyone comes to Nokia. But AI is changing all networks and all portions of the networks, not just wireless. But with respect to wireless, I think one of the biggest changes we will see is in the way consumers use the network and network usage patterns. And Nokia, we're predicting massive amounts of uplink traffic, which will be a change in the way consumers have typically used networks. I mean, think about the way you use your phone or your tablet. You're usually downloading content, watching videos, but if you think about the way that you're using AI, it's very uplink heavy. So for things like scene recognition or creating your own content, so network operators will need to think about how to manage network traffic, but also design their networks so that we can account for that. I mean, luckily at Nokia, we're already thinking about that, and we offer plenty of solutions, and I don't want to get into the weeds, but things like multiple input-output antennas, carrier aggregation, network slicing, which I know we'll get into, and yeah, looking forward to talking about it some more. That's
great. I mean, talking about, data and the demand for data, right? It's grown. I think we heard yesterday on a panel, 132 trillion megabytes of data last year. Shout out to CTIA's social media. That's enough to watch the Taylor Swift Eras Tour video 420 million times. So wow. We're doing good things, and it sounds like maybe we'll have some more uplink to think about. But John, what about you? Let me turn to you.
Yeah, so like Becky said, AI is changing everything, and in terms of growth, by the end of this decade, we're expecting mobile data demands to triple what they are currently. And with regard to AI, there are studies showing that in 2033, a third of all mobile traffic will be AI related. So from Qualcomm's perspective, what we're seeing as driving the growth are basically 4 things. The first is AI. The second is XR type applications. The third is mobile gaming. And then the fourth is mobile video consumption of increasingly high quality video. So from our perspective, we're very focused on using AI inside the network to, obviously it's being used today to improve network reliability, improve latency, improve throughput. We're also heavily working on hybrid AI. Hybrid AI is a concept of actually running AI in the cloud at the same time that you have edge AI, on-device AI. You've all used on-device AI already if you've downloaded a translation app. Today, if you download the dictionary for a particular language, you can shut off your connectivity and engage in a conversation with somebody who is speaking the language. The entire language is resident on the device. It's very low latency because it's on the device. It doesn't need to tax the network. And that's just like one example. We're going to be seeing a a lot of that moving forward. Training will continue to be done in the cloud, and you're going to have local AI inference being run. It's going to make the networks much more efficient. Even with that, we're going to see this massive growth. And another thing that is still in its infancy is the deployment of AI agents. And that's something that you're really not using today, but very soon you will. And one of the examples is as follows. You will say to your eyewear, I want to go on vacation within the next 6 months. I'd like to go to Hawaii. I'd like to stay at a Hilton or a Marriott property. And I don't want to spend more than this amount of money. Your AI agent goes off and does all those queries, pinging the cloud, and then presents to you the results and says, on this weekend, you could go, and here's what the cost will be. And you could, of course, make changes. All of us will be taking advantage of this technology. And what it's going to do, it's going to drive traffic way up because the agents will be doing this stuff, and it won't be you and I spending hours and hours trying to plan a vacation. And that's just one small example. But things of that nature are what is going to really heavily drive the traffic. And in order to support it, you're going to need very intelligent AI at the edge coupled with cloud-based AI.
I mean, that in and of itself sounds amazing. Like, I would use that.
Totally.
Yeah, to plan my next vacation. Becky, I know that you mentioned how providers are going to have to start integrating AI. So Svetlana, turning to you, you're a provider on the panel here. Can you tell us, from your perspective, how is AI changing the way that you're thinking about your networks and technology?
And thank you so much for having me here today. I realize I'm not only wearing orange for Boost Mobile, but also for the San Francisco Giants, which I'm a fan of. So at our company at EchoStar, we are very much focused on AI adoption. It's something that we're very interested in, and that is certainly the case for Boost Mobile, our wireless business. As folks likely have seen recently, we entered into transactions and as a result of which we are pivoting our business to a hybrid MNO model. And something that's important to understand as part of this, and that I want to underscore, is that with this new model, we are still going to be maintaining our own 5G cloud-native core. And it's the cloud-native nature and the flexible and open nature of the core that really is very well positioned to leverage the many advancements that we are seeing in AI today and the ones that we will continue to see. Obviously, AI is a very fast evolving field.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I think that's right. I think as we get closer and closer to really this full deployment of the things that John's described and all you're describing, like, I think we're gonna have to have flexible approaches to this, but really trying to capture all the abilities. I'm gonna turn to another technology, Becky, that you mentioned, network slicing. It's definitely one of the things that I think when we talk 5G, that's what we talk about, is one of those things is network slicing. As a non-technical person, maybe you can help. Can you tell us what network slicing is?
Well, I'm not a technical person either, but I'll do my best. And I agree, it is one of the more exciting things to come out of 5G. It has been envisioned as part of 5G standards. You actually need a standalone 5G network to do network slicing because you need a 5G core. And essentially, network slicing is taking one physical network and creating little mini virtual networks. And what do you do with a network? You have different quality of service offerings that in the past have been hard to tailor to different customers who have different needs, different reliability needs. If you're doing some sort of remote healthcare versus gaming versus fixed wireless access. And so through these virtual networks, operators can offer customization to their end users and offer a variety of services. And I think we're going to see that expand, and not just from a consumer standpoint, but also to achieve public policy goals. I think all of the nationwide operators in the US are offering some sort of priority for public safety.
And John, maybe if you want to take a second and maybe
Sure.
talk about the use cases.
Yeah, thanks, Christiaan. So how I understand network slicing is network connectivity with a defined QoS that is going to be available all the time. And today, the mobile carriers are implementing slicing, and I'll just give you two examples that are super important. point of sale transactions as well as entering an entertainment venue. So when you enter an entertainment venue, your QR code is scanned. You don't want to, the venue operator doesn't want you to wait even 3 seconds to walk in. You want it instantaneously. So a slice is being defined to support that connectivity, so you just walk in. And then you want to buy popcorn or beer or a candy bar, and when you scan your phone for Apple Pay, Google Pay, that transaction should be completed instantaneously, and that's essentially what it's being used for. I, for the first time coming out here, used TSA pre-touchless, and I literally put my feet in the 2 spots and barely picked up my head, and the person said, okay. And I stopped there and said, like, you just scanned me? I don't know whether TSA is using network slicing, but getting back to the entertainment venue, we've all looked at lines when you're watching a sporting event. And if the line's too long, you don't wait. You're like, I want to get back to my seat. So if just getting someone through a line much quicker really means money, because they're able to process more people, get them into the venue, and they're able to sell more T-shirts, popcorn, whatever. Critically important functionality.
Really interesting. I mean, yeah, I hate lines. My kids won't wait for anything. It has to happen immediately. So the idea that we could make my life easier, I like that. I like that idea. I'm going to turn to another thing that I think we talk about when we talk about 5G, and that is Open RAN. John, I'm going to come back to you here. Maybe you could talk about some of the benefits that you see for Open RAN and technology developers. How can that enable some of the forward progress that we're seeing?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So yeah, Qualcomm is currently enabling Open RAN systems in both Japan, working with NTT Docomo, Rakuten, and NEC, and in Vietnam with Viettel. It essentially, and in both of those, they are multi-vendor environments, active deployments. The performance is exceeding expectations. There's plans to expand both inside of those countries and to other countries. There will be announcements forthcoming. So the benefits are enabling an ecosystem that will hopefully provide better performance, more plug-and-play, multi-vendor competition in the network equipment ecosystem, and it's to be a win-win where you have multiple options to plug and play the various components. So it's very important. And from a 6G perspective, 6G is being designed to be O-RAN compliant. So we'll see the benefits clearly later this decade when all of the systems being deployed will be O-RAN compliant.
That's great. And for those of you with the bingo cards, he said 6G, so you can cross that one. Becky, I don't know if you had anything else to share on Open RAN.
No, I mean, I think John touched on the major benefits, flexibility for operators, which should presumably result in more innovative networks, more innovative offerings. Hopefully, more choice equals lower prices that is then passed down to the consumers. Developers can take advantage of the openness, and another thing that goes hand in hand with Open RAN is also this concept of virtual RAN, where you can run parts of your network on software that used to have to be run on the actual physical part of the network. So for developers in particular, usually that's a faster development time and allows for more innovation. And the driving force behind Open RAN was to create competition and also to create more secure networks. So Nokia has really, been a leading vendor in the Open RAN space, and not just in creating hardware and software, but also participating in the O-RAN Alliance to create specifications, working with other vendors. But ultimately, we want our customers to have choice. And so that's what Open RAN does. And some customers may still choose to buy from the same vendor that fits their needs. They think that's more secure, whereas others may choose to do this plug and play. So we're just looking forward to see what our customers want and what happens next.
I mean, this is great. I think it's really helpful to talk about all these kind of advancements that we've seen. But circling back sort of at a higher level, how do you guys think about the FCC and how do they work in conjunction with other agencies to push forward AI, to push forward Open RAN, to push forward network slicing? Are there things that the FCC or others could do in collaboration? And this is a question for all of you, but maybe I'll start, Svetlana, I don't know if you want to kick anything off.
Well, I think with respect to AI, I think one of the interesting things that I noticed about the AI action plan that was released earlier this year had noted that the FCC should look at potential conflicts between existing state AI laws and the Communications Act, and I think that got a lot of attention and press and just in conversations. But I think another interesting area that often, just in terms of analysis I've seen and conversations I've had, gets overlooked is that the AI action plan also really calls out the importance of secure communication networks for supporting the American AI stack and basically infrastructure on the telecom side that is free from foreign adversaries. And I thought that it was interesting that it gave a nod to that. And I know that the FCC had established its National Security Council earlier this year. And so I think that that is one area that is important. And it'll be interesting to see the trajectory of that.
John?
Yeah, I mean, the Trump administration is obviously very dialed into AI and enabling the AI ecosystem and American leadership. But to answer your question about what the FCC can do, I think the car FCC is doing it, which is starting the work to open up the spectrum bands that are in the One Big Beautiful Bill is a critical step, and that is obviously super important because we can't have these wonderful systems that use AI if there's no spectrum in which to deploy. So that, I think, is the most important and pressing issue.
And we're going to get there, but Becky, I don't know if you have anything else to add on maybe what...
I agree with everything that's been said. I really would like to see the FCC and all policymakers in the U.S. leaning in. This is an opportunity for the U.S. to be at the forefront of the AI revolution. I mean, I think we are already there, and I think, like John said, the administration seems to realize this. So just continue to create an environment where we can continue to innovate and really lean into the AI revolution.
Yeah, no, that's great. Svetlana, coming back to you, you mentioned hybrid MVNO. This is a kind of a new and unique thing that EchoStar is going forward with. Could you maybe talk about that a little bit more and how you see that contributing to kind of more innovation on the wireless side?
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to speak to that. So to start with, I want to note that this is not the outcome that we had hoped for or that we wanted. However, the FCC had made the determination that, in its view, we were not using our spectrum in a way that best served the public interest. And so to address their concerns, we entered into two transactions, one with AT&T and one with SpaceX. And the AT&T transaction is where we are selling our 3.45 gigahertz and 600 megahertz licenses to AT&T, and with SpaceX we're selling our AWS-4 and H-Block licenses, as well as our international authorization for MSS service to SpaceX. And they will use that to build out a direct-to-cell capability. And additionally, we also, as part of these transactions, entered into long-term commercial agreements with both AT&T and SpaceX. And with AT&T, we will be using their cell sites to provide wireless service to our customers, and SpaceX, once built out, we will be using their direct-to-cell capabilities to provide direct-to-cell service to our customers. So between the two, our customers will have ubiquitous coverage. Now, and a really important part of this, and something that makes it unique, is that we are still going to be maintaining full control of our 5G cloud-native core. And we will be able to manage our subscribers through this core. And that is why it's this innovative hybrid MNO model. So to put a little bit of color on that, being able to having our own core that we manage means that we can do things such as track network issues at the customer level. We can both own and provision customers as well as the phone numbers. We are able to see data and usage at the customer level, and we're able to still maintain our own business and operation system services. And so that's a few of some of the things that we're able to do, as well as we still have the functionality of authentication and security, and being able to do things like aggregation of traffic of end user devices. And so, with all of this combined, we are still able to really control the customer experience and differentiate our product and service offerings. And looking ahead, as I noted before, because the cloud native architecture of our core, we are able to leverage that well to be able to take advantage of the advancements that we are seeing with rapid AI innovation and continued innovation to come.
Yeah, no, thanks. Obviously, a really exciting time at EchoStar. John, I want to come back to you. You mentioned Spectrum, so I'm going to put you on the spot. You know, you mentioned OB3, the implementation of it. You know, we have Auction Authority back.
I drink out of that. I don't have any
I
germs.
think this one's yours. We'll figure it out up here. You mentioned the growth of AI and everything, but how do you see kind of AI and all these new innovative services? How is that going to play into the demand for Spectrum and finding out that 800 megahertz that we're all looking for?
Yes, I'll try to be brief, but the first panel yesterday covered it very well. The OB3 Act is a big deal. It really sets the table for what needs to happen, and from our perspective, the work needs to start now. Industry needs to be involved now, working closely with government. We all know the ways to open up spectrum bands. There's a number of tools that have been practiced. Folks mentioned yesterday the learnings from the C-band issues, how now government is working closely with industry to open up that spectrum. They're looking at the upper C-band. All of those interactions need to occur on each of the bands that were identified for study in the OB3 Act. We cannot have one or more federal agencies go off, do a study, come back 18 months later, present the outcome, because I could tell you right now what that outcome is going to be, and it's not going to be an outcome that's going to be favorable for the mobile industry who needs spectrum. So that is critically important, that these bands be opened as soon as possible. Qualcomm and others have said that for 6G to be deployed meaningfully in this country, 600 megahertz needs to be opened by the end of this decade. And it's not going to stop then. We're going to need more spectrum mid-decade for the second wave of 6G. And the work needs to be done now. That is critically important. And then to answer your question about the need, one thing I didn't talk about already, I spoke about AI and how it's going to increase traffic. Another thing that 6G networks are going to be critically important for is to support the growth of XR. You're all seeing now the initial relatively rapid uptake of the Meta glasses, the Ray-Ban glasses, the Oakley glasses. These are very successful types of devices. The next stage will have glasses talking directly to the cloud with no need to tether to a smartphone. Today, a 5G system can only support less than a dozen sets of eyewear in a given serving cell. 6G systems will be able to increase that by an order of magnitude. So if everyone is going to be streaming video from their phones, from their eyewear, from what they see to folks that are elsewhere, like one prime example of an XR application that all of us can relate to is watching a soccer game that your kids are playing and streaming it live to grandparents across the state or across the country. Another one is, help me, like an assistant. You're in a store and you want to look for something. You could have an AI assistant help you locate that box of crackers when your spouse is saying, and I want this particular brand. The AI glass could say, here it is, and highlight it. These are applications that are available today, very useful applications. My favorite XR application, I haven't seen it yet, but you could see it being realized, is going to a sporting event and being able to watch the game from the perspective of the umpire behind home plate or the perspective of a second baseman. And this could be sent to everybody watching inside the stadium. And then your next question is, why do I even need to be in the stadium? It could be streamed to you wherever you are, walking on the street, in your house. These are applications that are going to require more spectrum to support. We're not going to be able to realize the full potential of XR. We're not going to be able to realize the full potential of AI if we don't get more spectrum.
Sounds like the work has to start now. We need
Totally.
to get going.
Yesterday.
Yesterday. Okay. Becky, what do you think?
Well, I think there's no doubt that spectrum is so important to all of these use cases that John just mentioned, and I personally would love the perspective of our quarterback at Penn State, given some of his questionable calls lately. But anyway, so yeah, spectrum, we're thrilled. There's more spectrum coming online. No doubt that that's important, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. And we also have to ensure that our technology is keeping up to date, and also that our standards. So 6G is looking ahead. The standards will incorporate AI native into the standards, and operators also need to upgrade their networks and ensure that the equipment can also keep up. So spectrum is great, but it's, as we all know, a finite resource. So we have to make the most of it.
Yeah. Svetlana, turning to you. I know you just talked a little bit about your hybrid MVNO offering, but maybe, I don't know if you have any thoughts to share on spectrum.
Yeah, so I think in one area that we would like to see the FCC take action that would help to make more key spectrum available is to update the power levels for the CBRS band through rulemaking. And that's a band that's underutilized today, so it would unlock key spectrum and put it to more efficient use for things like 5G mobility, for the many AI innovations that we're seeing today. And it would also harmonize the band with the way that it's used around the world. And yeah, this is something that we see as really important, and that would be helpful.
Yeah, I know people are paying close attention to that docket and that band where it sits in the 3 gigahertz. I think on the panel yesterday we heard a lot about that being right in the wheelhouse for 5G for sure. I'm gonna turn the page a little bit, Becky. I'm gonna come back to you. If we could talk about a little bit about like supply chain and network security, how do these impact, like AI probably in particular, but how do they impact sort of the supply chain AI or network security in particular? As we kind of look about it today, like we understand that there are threats out there, and how do you think it shapes the approach there?
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, first and foremost, I would say you want to start with a secure network and purchase your equipment from a trusted vendor. That's first and foremost. But these technologies that we've been discussing on the stage also can help to increase network security. As I mentioned, one of the goals of Open RAN was to give operators the choice to try and compile the most secure network as possible. ORAN also has security built into its specifications. As John mentioned, it's going to be part of the 6G standard suite. So that's all moving in the right direction. But AI itself can help keep networks more secure. I mean, the ability of AI to recognize network traffic patterns, recognize something unusual, recognize a threat. It's just taking the delay from hours to minutes. And so I think AI is going to, of course, cause more traffic on the network, but it's also going to help operators manage their traffic and keep their networks more secure.
John, how about Qualcomm? How are you guys seeing it?
Yeah, I think Becky covered it quite nicely. The one thing I would add is presently 5G is the most secure mobile technology generation. 6G will be the most secure mobile technology generation once it's rolled out. And for purposes of security, yes, the design of Open RAN is critical to ensuring security, supply chain security, network security, et cetera. But getting back to what I started with, when you're able to run AI inferences directly on your device, and your personal data will remain locally on the device and not in the cloud, that is, you can't get more secure than that. And it's private and it's secure. And that's also critically important, is doing as much on the device and maybe sharing such sensitive data, less so in the cloud. We might see that transition as well. Again, edge AI is also very pro-security, pro-privacy.
Well, I see that we're running a little bit short on time, so maybe we can look a little forward. and talk about, I know that we've built these networks, we're starting to see sort of the real 5G come out, but maybe we can talk about, factors that you all consider, when you're prioritizing investments, like what can help spur that investment along. Svetlana, I don't know if you want to take a crack at it first.
Yeah, I think we're very excited about the AI space and the things that are happening in the AI arena that's going to help unlock more innovation for the industry. And so the opportunities that will flow from that is something that we're really looking forward to.
John?
Sure. Yeah, that's how we prioritize investments is a very complex question, and I'll just turn it a little bit differently. And I would say what drives Qualcomm's engineers every day is doing more with less, looking at a piece of spectrum and figuring out how can we get more data through that piece of spectrum with better performance, lower latency, higher reliability, and to do it with less power. It is an ongoing engineering challenge, and it really is a very exciting challenge. And everyone here understands what I'm talking about, and it's critically important. We have not had a whole lot of mobile spectrum opened up in recent years, and what all the carriers are doing is exactly that. They're taking advantage of what's there. And there's limits to that, and it's going to be critically important to fuel that engine to get the spectrum available as soon as possible.
And Becky, maybe the last words here.
Yeah, that was a great response, and I think that's how we should all be looking at spectrum. And at Nokia, we spend a lot of money on research and development, and we look at investment and innovation, from the perspective of our company and our customers within our business groups, but we also own Bell Labs, so we're thinking about the future all the time. And Nokia Bell Labs is not thinking about Nokia's bottom line; it's thinking about the future of the industry. And some of the things that they're focusing on there are integrated sensing communications and quantum computing, and of course AI. And what our customers want from AI is they want faster response times, they want customization, they want resiliency. So that's a lot to think about, but can end on a future-focused note, I guess.
No, that's great. I mean, it's great to hear all the work and thinking about all the problem solving that I think we all in this room we all know that that's the work that's ahead of us. And as John said, I think we started yesterday to get to work on it. So thank you all so much for your thoughts, sharing your thoughts today. I know I'll speak for everyone in the room. We really appreciate it, and looking forward to hear the next panel. Thank you.